are CNN Student News, and Fridays are awesome. I'm Carl Azuz. Thank you for watching. The World Wildlife Fund, an international conservation group, says more than 2/3 of the world's wildlife could be gone by the year 2020. The organization says there's already been a 58% decrease in the number of fish, mammals, birds, and reptiles since 1970. The number of elephants, as we've reported, has dropped drastically, in part because of poaching. And the WWF says overfishing could make 1/3 of the planet's sharks extinct. Looking at wildlife as a whole, one major reason for all this is habitat loss. A WWF conservation scientist says it's because people are using so much of the planet and destroying so much of the animal's habitat. His organization suggests more government laws protecting the environment and that people look for more sustainable products and renewable energy. But not all scientists totally agree with the WWF report. A conservation ecology professor at Duke University says it's true that wildlife is declining, but he called some of the WWF's numbers sketchy and said its research is flawed, in part because most of it focuses on Western Europe. As history books define it, the Cold War started after World War II. It involved the U.S. and its allies versus the Soviet Union and its allies. The rivalry was political, economic, ideologic, but it stopped short of an outright military conflict. Now, though, there's a military buildup in Eastern Europe that's the largest since the Cold War. The United Kingdom's planning to send fighter jets to Romania. The U.S. is set to send troops and tanks to Poland. Russia recently sailed warships close to British waters on their way to Syria. It all has international officials asking, is this the beginning of a new Cold War?
Well, not since the end of the Cold War have tensions between Russia and the West been this high. The big flashpoint is, of course, Syria. Russia's bombing in support of its ally, the Syrian president, has drawn condemnation from the United States and Europe. Russia has responded by bolstering its military in Syria, deploying even more state-of-the-art anti-aircraft missiles, and by upping its rhetoric. Of course, the Syria conflict is only one of the flashpoints between Russia and the West. Another is Ukraine, where Russia is under Western sanctions for fueling a bloody rebellion in the east of the country after annexing Crimea in 2014. There's also the issue of hacking, with Russia accused by US officials of breaking into computer systems of political institutions. The Kremlin denies it, but there is a growing sense that Russia and the West are locked in a collision course over a whole range of issues. Critics argue that Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, is just an autocrat bent on subverting the international order to which Russia was invited to be a part. But I think many Russians see it differently. They see a world that after the end of the Cold War was almost totally dominated by the West and by the United States in particular.
Because it's our duty to speak in this place of freedom.
Russian interests and concerns, they believe, have been trampled on with NATO expansion and the toppling of former Russian allies in the Balkans and in the Middle East. And what many Russians like about Putin is that he is saying enough is enough and standing up to US dominance.
И, конечно, нам нужно укреплять безопасность и обороноспособность страны, отстаивать ее позиции на мировой арене. Рассчитываю, что парламент...
So what Syria and Ukraine and hacking are really about is this. Like it or not, that relationship between Russia and the West after the Cold War, the post-Cold War settlement as it's sometimes called, is now being renegotiated.
Ray of Light, Hope, Echo. These are the names of some of Japan's Shinkansen, the network of bullet trains that quickly connect different parts of the country. There are hundreds of them in Japan, and the next generation of maglev, or magnetic levitation trains, promises to be significantly faster. Will Ripley climbs aboard for a trip through the past and the future.
It's one of the most sophisticated transportation networks in the world, the arteries of Japan, pumping millions of passengers across the country, and the trains are almost always on time. Walking into Tokyo Station, you're surrounded. More than 3,000 trains and 500,000 people passing through this one station every day. But trains are much more than transportation here in Japan.
Welcome to the Shinkansen.
They tell a story of this country's character and changing relationship with the world.
Was this your seat right here?
Yeah.
And so
Does being in here bring back memories for you?
Yes, of course.
Fumihiro Araki is living history. He was a conductor of the Zero Series Shinkansen, Japan's first high-speed rail.
Tell me what it was like when the bullet train first was unveiled in Japan.
世界で、一番速い列車を運転するという気持ちだったので、とても興奮しました。
We're standing on board the original train, unveiled in 1964. At the time, it topped 210 kilometers an hour, which was unheard of. The fastest trains in Europe pushed 160. The Shinkansen was a show of force.
東京オリンピックが1964年に開かれましたので、これに合わせるということで世界に、日本の復興ですかね、戦後復興とそれから、技術の、高まりを見ていただこうという意味もありましてね。で、日本人は非常に誇りに思ったわけです。
Now, Japan is upping the ante again.
Wow. Wow, look at that. It's incredible. How fast is that going?
Yeah, it's about 311 miles per hour.
311 miles an hour.
The SC Maglev, recently clocking in at speeds of 600 kilometers per hour. Testing is underway at a track outside of Tokyo, hidden in the mountains of a sleepy town called Yamanashi. How does it go so fast?
The SC Maglev train is levitating using magnetic force.
So literally, the train isn't touching the surface, it's just floating just above.
That's right.
But mass travel on the Maglev isn't going to happen overnight.
We already gained the speed of 550 kilometers per hour in 1997. However, we need to make the system and technology to a practical level, and that's going to take time.
This new technology requires all new tracks, 85% of which will be underground, to compensate for the fact that Japan is incredibly mountainous and also to avoid purchasing the land the train tracks go through. Even then, this first line is estimated to cost $55 billion.
Walking on board the fastest train in the world almost feels like you're getting on an airplane, and the Maglev can travel nearly as fast.
The ride is surprisingly smooth, although your ears pop after you go a certain speed. A journey many in Japan can't wait to be a part of.
Doesn't get old. It's so cool.
Most penguins have special feathers to help insulate their bodies from extreme cold, but they can occasionally lose them, as a penguin at SeaWorld Orlando recently did. So check it, y'all. Penguin wetsuit. It was tailored by SeaWorld's wardrobe department just for this penguin. It helps her regulate her own body temperature, and she doesn't seem to mind outdressing the others. This has been done before, successfully, at another captive penguin habitat. So you could say it suits them, that it fits the bill, that birds of a feather dress together, that they have a vested interest in suiting up. Now, I don't mean to be flippant, but we're about to put this show on the wing, and while we don't have to penguin again, we hope your weekend is a penguinner. I'm Carl Azuz.